Your parents bought their first house making a fraction of what you make now. Adjusted for inflation, that is often still true, and yet somehow they are the ones who ended up owning property, while you are the one calculating whether ramen for a week is worth it just to make rent. Something structurally broke between their generation and yours, and it was not laziness, and it was not too many avocado toasts. The math itself changed, and almost nobody explained exactly how. Let's start with the number that makes the entire situation click. In 1985, the median home price in America was roughly $84,000, and the median household income was around $23,600. That is a home price to income ratio of about 3.5. Today, the median home price sits around $420,000, while median household income is roughly $80,000. That ratio has climbed to over 5. And in many major metro areas where the jobs actually are, it is well above 7 or 8. This is not a small shift. It means the same relative effort that bought a house for your parents now buys roughly half a house, if that, and that gap has been widening for decades, not stabilizing. Here is the part that surprises people. Wages did grow over that time. The problem is not that pay has been completely flat. The problem is that home prices grew dramatically faster than wages did, decoupling from each other in a way that never used to happen. For most of the mid-20th century, housing costs and wages moved roughly together. Starting in the 1980s and accelerating hard after 2000, that relationship broke, and it has never gone back. So what actually broke it? There is no single villain here, and understanding the real combination of forces matters more than any single scapegoat, because it explains why this problem has been so stubbornly resistant to fixing. The first piece is supply, and specifically, how little of it there is where people actually want to live. Freddie Mac, one of the largest housing finance institutions in the country, estimated the US housing shortage at over 3.8 million homes as of recent data. That shortfall did not appear overnight. Local zoning laws in many American cities have made it increasingly difficult and expensive to build anything other than single-family detached homes on large lots, which restricts how many housing units can physically exist in high-demand areas. A city can want more housing desperately and still legally prevent most of it from being built, because the zoning code only allows one house per large lot in the neighborhoods closest to jobs and transit. The second piece is who is actually buying the homes that do get built or sold. Institutional investors, meaning large companies and investment funds buying up single-family homes specifically to rent them out, have become a meaningfully larger share of the housing market than at any point in American history. Estimates vary, but research from groups tracking this found investor purchases made up around 26% of single-family home sales nationally in recent peak years, and in some specific metro areas, that number climbed significantly higher. These buyers are not competing with you for a place to raise a family. They are competing with you as a financial asset purchase, often with cash offers that a typical buyer using a mortgage simply cannot match, in bidding wars that regular families lose specifically because they need financing and an investment fund does not. The third piece is interest rates, and this one hits differently depending on exactly when you are trying to buy. For most of the 2010s, mortgage rates sat near historic lows, sometimes below 3.5%, which meant that even as home prices climbed, monthly payments stayed somewhat manageable because borrowing was cheap. Then rates jumped dramatically, starting in 2022, pushing well above 7% at points in the fastest rate increase cycle in decades. This created something economists call the lock-in effect. Existing homeowners who refinanced or bought during the low-rate years are now sitting on 3% mortgages and have almost zero incentive to sell and buy again at today's much higher rates, even if they would otherwise want to move. This freezes inventory. Fewer existing homes hit the market because selling means trading a cheap mortgage for an expensive one, which shrinks the already limited supply even further for anyone trying to buy in now. Now here is where this connects to something almost nobody puts in the same conversation: student debt and its quiet, compounding effect on the down payment timeline. The average student loan borrower graduates owing around $37,000. That is not just a monthly payment problem. It is a wealth-building delay problem. Every dollar going towards student loan payments in your 20s is a dollar not going into a down payment fund. And because of how compound growth works, money not saved and invested at 25 is worth dramatically more than the same dollar amount saved at 35. A generation carrying significant student debt into their late 20s is starting the homeownership savings race a full decade behind where their parents' generation typically started. And that head start gap does not close on its own. So does this mean homeownership is simply impossible for younger generations now? The honest answer is more specific than a flat yes or no, and it depends heavily on geography in a way that older generations did not have to think about nearly as much. The gap between coastal, high-demand metro areas and the rest of the country has widened enormously. Buying a starter home in San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, or Seattle on a single median income in those metro areas is genuinely close to mathematically impossible for most people without existing family wealth. Buying a home in many mid-sized cities in the Midwest, parts of the South, and smaller metro areas remains achievable on a solid dual income, sometimes even a single strong income, at ratios not wildly different from what previous generations experienced. This is part of why remote work becoming more normalized after 2020 mattered so much economically, not just culturally. It gave people, for the first time in decades, the ability to decouple where they live from where their highest paying job happens to be located. And that flexibility has genuinely changed the homeownership math for people who used it. There is also a real and uncomfortable wealth transfer happening underneath all of this. Federal Reserve data shows that inheritance and family financial gifts play an increasingly large role in who is able to afford a down payment, particularly in expensive metro areas. Homeownership is increasingly becoming something that gets passed down through family wealth rather than something built purely from individual income and saving discipline, which is a genuinely different system than the one your parents' generation largely operated inside, where a stable job and steady saving were usually enough on their own. Here is what is actually being tried to fix pieces of this, because there are real policy fights happening around exactly this issue right now. Not just complaints without solutions. Several states and cities have started reforming zoning laws specifically to allow more multifamily housing in areas previously restricted to single-family homes only, an approach sometimes called missing middle housing. Some states have passed or proposed laws limiting or taxing large-scale institutional investor purchases of single-family homes specifically. None of these fixes are fast. Zoning reform in particular can take years to actually translate into new housing supply hitting the market, because construction itself takes time even after the legal barriers are removed. So where does that leave you personally, right now, trying to figure out your own path? The honest strategic reality is that the traditional playbook, save diligently in your same expensive metro area and eventually buy there, has gotten measurably harder in specific high-demand cities in a way that is not primarily about your personal financial discipline. Geographic flexibility, understanding local market conditions rather than only national headlines, and being honest about whether family financial help is or is not part of your realistic path forward have become far more central to the actual math than they were for your parents' generation. This is not a story about a lazier generation making worse choices. It is a story about a market that fundamentally restructured itself around supply restrictions, investor, capital, interest rate, whiplash, and debt timing, all while the national conversation kept treating it as a simple story about personal budgeting. The house your parents bought and the house you are trying to buy are not participating in the same market, even if they are sitting in the exact same neighborhood.